All right, what is up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. Today is the 12th of July, 2026. This is a video under our main side, one of the four sides to us as In the Image Clothing Company, and I'm doing it inside just for many reasons, okay? I like to do these outside, but here we go, okay? The video's title here is Chairs Have to Be Flat. Let's get into it. I'm going to talk about this anatomically. What are we? Who are we? Why are we in the Image Clothing Company? Well, clothing, just the literal wording of anything physically placed on our bodies, is physically placed on our bodies. Always, okay? So clothing has to, at very least, stay centered, fit correct, and be made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials. What does it mean to allow the body to work and correlate it with clothing? Well, clothing, being just the only thing physically placed on our bodies, is placed onto a mechanical machine. The human being is just hinges, levers, and rotations, just measurable mathematical degrees of really those things: hinges, levers, and rotations, functioning, motion, physics. The human body designed in the image of God, in the image of Jesus Christ. Here's your clothing company, but you don't have to care about fashion for In the Image Clothing Company to apply to you. Anything physically placed on the body, the literal word of clothing, is what we discuss here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side. When we give a lot of free modifications and imbalances in modern clothing that's universally shipped across the entire earth in ways that couldn't have possibly happened in the past. Just before we had the technology to do that, we couldn't do that. And there's just only one way the human body could ever work, all right? I just have no possible opinion on that, but I know that there's a lot of people discussing workout routines, stretching routines, all these things, and there always has been, always will be where there is. But the bones of the human being just grow by themselves. In this universal human design, the shape and length of the bones just connects directly to each other through ligaments, and the bones are extremely specifically shaped on the end, and they can only connect the way they do. We've got a thin layer of cushioning between the bones called cartilage so they don't wear each other out. And we've always got a neutral position to everything. The wrist, for example, comes up or down from the neutral, which is just the way the bones connect. In the fingers, through the hand, through the wrist, through the forearm. The ankle, okay, comes up, dorsiflexion, or down, plantar flexion, the lever of the foot off the hinge of the ankle. But there's a neutral. It's the horizontal surface of the earth. It's the term zero drop in any brand of shoe, just meaning flat. Like the earth's surface that God made, and then he made the human beings to place onto it. The body grows by itself, okay? There's only one way it could ever function. Opposing muscles pull to stabilize us in these neutral positions throughout the entire human being. And we mesh with Earth's vertical gravity pull. It comes down and meshes with a perpendicular or 90-degree right angle with the horizontal surface of the planet Earth. So, the center line of our bodies, the sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, our jaw, the jaw stabilizing the entire body with musculature up to the crown of the head, down to some of these upper ribs, and out to the edges of our shoulders, going through the collars of our tops that need to stay centered and snug. We are a clothing company under In the Image Clothing Company, only really just to allow the body to work. So we've got even opposing musculature, all right, from any function to stabilize us in the neutral, but the body vertically, muscles on the right side of our body, evenly opposing the pull of muscles on the left side of our bodies. There's only one way the human being could ever possibly work. No possible opinion to it. Unless you had a surgical procedure or something like this to change the shape and or length of your bones within this universal human design, it only does what it does. We've got our differences where we do small percentile of human beings with differences. We address them if and where needed. But the body only does what it does. And front to back is a big focus. We're getting into this video's title, right? The 12th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, chairs have to be flat. And I've got two things I'll sit on here as if they're a chair. You can call them chairs. A seat, somewhere to sit down. for the visual, and I'll discuss this with the body, the pelvis and the feet and the spine and all throughout the body. But we have to understand as well, the body front to back has these even mathematical opposing bends from Earth's vertical gravity pull. So the ankles bend backward at the very bottom bend of the body. Above them, the knees bend forward, traveling up. The hips bend backward. Above the hips, the low back, the lowest third of the spine, the lumbar spine, it bends forward. And then the mid third of the back, the thoracic spine, bends backward. And then the upper back is just the neck. The cervical spine bends forward. So the body bends back and forth and back and forth. And back and forth again. Okay. Opposing this vertical pull to gravity, that's how we stay vertical on Earth. Vertical gravity pull. It's physics, it's mathematics. There's no workout routine, there's no stretching that you could ever possibly do to the human being to go anywhere. You go to one side of a function and you hit bones into each other. From the neutral, you go to the other side of the function and you hit bones into each other. From the neutral, but it's this opposing pull of musculature that stabilizes us in this neutral. Alright, so when we sit down, the pelvis always has a neutral. The pelvis has the same neutral as the feet. The pelvis is the hips. Okay, this big structure of bone that is our hips. Or we hinge. Okay, we bend over at the hips, a hip hinge. There's a neutral to the motion of the pelvis. Like the foot on the horizontal surface of the earth coming up, dorsiflexion, or going down, plantar flexion. The pelvis can come up in the front and down in the rear, posterior, with its rotation, from the neutral, or it can come up in the rear and down in the front, anterior, with its rotation, from the neutral. This is just my pelvis moving, you can see here. But there's always that horizontal surface to the earth. You can only go up a hill from a neutral, or down a hill from a neutral, just like you can only be different from the universal human design. If you can see what I'm saying, it's just mathematics, truly, always. Designed in the image of an unchanging God, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Here's our bodies always being the exact same. No matter how much our man-made world changes, it gets placed onto God's natural earth. The body's only natural. The goal is natural on all four sides of In the Image Clothing Company. The human body literally is just what we have eaten. The planet Earth, plants that grow from the earth, or animals that eat plants that grow from the earth. The earth becomes this human being, and then we die and our bodies just return back to the earth. It's just what it is. So there truly is only one way these angles of the body can happen, just because how the bones connect, and they'll just hit into each other when they're done with their motion on either side of the neutral position throughout the entire body. In everything, there's a neutral position to the entire human being. That's how it has motion. That's how it's just this mechanical machine, or a machine of motion, is it has to be able to be stable. And it does that by having two sides that it stabilizes in the middle of. Even just standing up, we lean left or right from our spine and the center line of our body above our hips, meshing with Earth's vertical gravity pull. So there's no possible opinion to it on how this thing works. Okay? Measurable mathematical truth. But when we sit down, this video is titled the 12th of July 2026 under In the Image Clothing Company. Our main site here specifically, one of our fourths to us, as In the Image Clothing Company. We have to have our chairs just be the same angle as the horizontal surface of the earth. Okay, we sit in a chair. So the video's title here, chairs have to be flat. It's not like a need that you can kind of maybe do, or a want. It's a need you have to do. Because the feet are flat on the ground. Horizontal. Traveling up, the pelvis has the same bending as the feet, or the hips have the same bending as the feet. Because, well, the feet meaning the ankle. When the feet come into the hinge joint of the ankle, this is a backward bend. but so is the pelvis. It's a backward bend because between the feet at the ankle joint or the pelvis, when I say feet, really I mean the ankle, which is the hinge, but there's the lever of the foot that is coming off the hinge of the ankle. Between the ankle and the hips is the knee, which bends forward. So the ankles go backward, but the pelvis also goes backward. So if we're going to sit down, we just have opposing bends happening. From the ankles to the knees, and then from the knees to the hips. The same bends happening in the ankles and the hips. The ankles bending backward, or the hips bending backward. When you sit down on anything, this video is titled, the 12th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main side. Chairs have to be flat. Because the feet are flat on the horizontal surface of the earth, they're not lifted up with the lever of the foot off the hinge of the ankle with dorsiflexion. And they're not pointed down with the lever of the foot off the hinge of the ankle with plantar flexion, unless the chair is too tall for you. But the feet are just on the horizontal surface of the earth, flat, bending backward to the ankles. As we sit down to get into a chair that has to be flat, for the sake of the functionality of the human being that's just a mechanical machine placed onto this rock in space called Earth with universal laws like gravity that's outside of all of us and pulls down on everything the exact same. As we bend the ankles backward and bend the knees forward, the pelvis is bending backward with the ankles. So sitting down, your chair has to be flat because the ground is flat. The feet, which are the lever off the hinge joint of the ankle, is flat. So you've got a certain bend in the ankle determined by how the feet are on the flat ground. It's neutral still. The ground is. Traveling up, the seat has to be neutral still. Flat. Neutral in the sense of it's the same perpendicular angle as the vertical pull to gravity coming down to the horizontal surface of the earth when we talk about the chair having to be flat. Because you've got the same bend happening, just a backward bend in both the ankles and the hips, opposing the forward bend in the knees between them. I'm going to talk about this more, but there's some context that has to be here. We live in a modern man-made world currently. It's the 12th of July, 2026. We have chairs. There's no chair until a human being makes a chair. The God-made human being makes a human being-made chair. Okay? That's one of the things, and so these chair heights have just become what they are. There's actually a video here under In the Image Clothing Company's main site currently titled The Proper Height Chair from Person to Person. And just a quick explanation of what that is a chair that's at least lower than the height of your two lower leg bones when they come up to your knee joint, so we can clear the upper leg from the chair. We've got muscles on the rear of our upper leg called hamstrings. And if you cut into muscles, they don't work. We could say cut into muscles, but if we just put weight on muscles or put pressure against muscles, they can't work. Muscles only contract in the body. They only pull. So with all of this opposing functioning happening in the body, the two sides from all the neutrals, in all the ways the body just has a neutral position to all of its physical function. That's how it physically functions. Muscles pull to do both sides. Muscles pull to close a hinge joint, like the elbow, but opposing muscles pull to extend a hinge joint, like the elbow. So if we don't have the ability to pull the muscles on the rear of our upper leg, called hamstrings, then they can't work. If there's something just pressing into them, You know, you try to lift something up with your arm and you push on the musculature of your arm, it can't work very well. It's like just trying to support your body while sitting in a chair, still on Earth's vertical gravity pull, and sitting on the muscles on the rear of your upper legs, the hamstrings. They can't work very well, okay? We've got opposing muscles through the hips. Muscles in the front of the body above the hips pull upward, with muscles in the rear of the body below the hips pulling down to cause a posterior rotation of the pelvis, like this. This crossing of activation through the hips. Muscles below the hips in the front of the body work with muscles above the hips in the rear of the body to do anterior rotation of the pelvis, like this. A crossing of activation through the hips. So we can't put weight on these muscles on the rear of our upper legs because they're half of the muscles that are playing into half of the pelvis's function. Posterior rotation. Up in the front and down in the rear. But let's talk about this thoroughly. As I say we do. Like I say, don't believe me. Evan Strong, the founder and leader for life of In The Image Clothing Company. Don't believe our team members under In The Image Clothing Company, even any of our poodles. Okay, In The Image Clothing Company poodles, one of our fourths. Just meaning truth is truth. And I know that we say things here that sound so different than a lot of people when they tell you how to do workouts, or they tell you how to stretch, or they tell you whatever. Even physical therapists and sports coaches and people with a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of false information. But it comes from things like this as one of the things. As I was saying, we have modern man-made chair heights. But different height human beings with different length lower legs. Before we get to the bend of the knee, that should be above the chair. So a lot of people are too short, not their fault, but for these general height chairs in modern day and going forth if and where, and it puts weight on the rear of their upper leg, on the muscle of the hamstrings. So it changes the position of their pelvis because the muscles of the hamstrings determine the position of the pelvis. Okay? That's a big point, but also this is a huge point to see context with. Let's say this. The 12th of July, 2026, in the Image Clothing Company's main site here, the video's title, chairs have to be flat. One of the big things we have in modern 2026, and going forward if we do, that we didn't ever have until the God-made human body made human being made shoes. Well, often we have heels under our shoes. The feet are flat. The feet are flat on the ground. The feet oppose the center line of the human being, gripping arches inward to keep us vertical on Earth's vertical gravity pull. But with this vertical pull to gravity coming down and meshing with the horizontal surface of the planet Earth with this perpendicular 90-degree right angle, if you put a heel under your foot's heel, you put your foot into a state of constant pointing of the toes, pointing the whole lever of the foot off the hinge of the ankle. That's plantar flexion, only one side from the neutral, which is the horizontal surface of the earth, and then the other side of the foot's function, the lever of the foot off the hinge of the ankle, is dorsiflexion, or lifting up. So we have to start flat to begin with. And so this is the thing. This video's title won't make sense to you if you start with heels under your feet heels on man-made shoe heels. Man-made shoe soles with heels on them. An elevation to the heel higher than the toe. Changing this neutral horizontal surface of the earth angle, this neutral to the dorsiflexion or plantar flexion, the lifting or the pointing of the foot off the hinge of the ankle. This video's title on the 12th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main side, chairs have to be flat won't make sense. Because if we point the feet plantar flexion, like a heel under the foot heel on a man-made shoe sole, that takes the pelvis with it. There's always this vertical pull to gravity on the planet Earth. There's always a neutral to the dorsiflexion or plantar flexion, the lifting or the pointing of the feet of the human being off the hinge of the ankle. The foot's just a lever. The human body is just a mechanical machine. It's just measurable mathematical degrees of hinges, levers, and rotations, just determined by the shape and length of our bones that grow by themselves within this universal human design. So, what we have is, if you've got heels on your shoes, a flat seat's not going to feel neutral to you. A flat chair is not going to feel neutral to you because your feet are not neutral. With heels under your shoes, soles, shoe heels under your feet heels, your feet are outside of their neutral in plantar flexion or pointing of the toes, and so is your pelvis. Because it just changes the bends in the entire body. These even mathematical opposing bends back and forth, back and forth, back and forth in the human being from the ankles up to the neck. Ankles backward, knees forward, hips backward, low back forward, mid back backward, and upper back forward. The neck, the cervical spine goes forward at the top. These aren't even. If we put a mathematical wedge under the heel of the foot. So the entire body's bends change and the pelvis goes anterior from its neutral, and there's posterior on the other side of anterior. Posterior, anterior, neutral for the pelvis is the same as the horizontal surface of the planet Earth. That's why this video's title on the 12th of July 2026 is Valid Eternal Truth for All Human Beings to Ever Live, regardless of what you think you want in a chair feel or angle or something, regardless of your height or the length of your lower leg bones. Before we get up to the chair, it doesn't matter. No matter how high the seat is or the chair is, no matter what material the seat or the chair is made out of, no matter how tall you are as a human being, how much fat content or cushioning from that you have under your pelvis, on your ischiums or your sit bones, no matter what age you are, and all of these things, these are things we can address, and they have their own discussions to be had about them in ways that we could do that and will, where we do if, under In the Image Clothing Company, with our slogan here under our main side being allowing the body to work, chairs have to be flat. There's many different things we could discuss with seating, height of seating, material to sit on, positions to put your body into as you sit, how to keep your body stable on Earth's vertical gravity pull as you do it, with the human being just being a mechanical machine, only having one neutral to everything that has to remain. Regardless of what else we could discuss with chairs, they have to be flat. So watch this. As I sit down here, my feet stay on the horizontal surface of the planet Earth, neutral, from dorsiflexion or plantar flexion. Traveling up to my pelvis, it can also stay neutral from posterior or anterior rotation because the chair is flat. Watch me sit down here. Okay. Now this is starting to get too high. Ideally it's slightly lower, so it's clearing the musculature of the rear of my upper legs here, the hamstrings. That's an individual height, depending on the height of the human being, and our lower leg bones. right? But as far as the angle of the seat, because my feet are neutral from dorsiflexion or plantar flexion, my pelvis is neutral, and I'll show you, watch this, from posterior rotation or anterior rotation. Look how much motion is in my pelvis on a flat chair with this video's title, on the 12th of July 2026, chairs have to be flat. Under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here, when I am sitting on a flat chair, the rest of my body not altered, my feet flat on the horizontal surface of the planet Earth, when my pelvis is neutral, watch how much motion is just coming from my pelvis or my hip structure alone. Up in the front and down in the rear from this neutral is posterior with its rotation. Back to neutral, down in the front and up in the rear is anterior with the pelvis's rotation. You notice everything in my body is staying the exact same. Like, look at where my knees are, is the big focus, because my spine will move just because my spine's coming down and connecting into my hips or my pelvis, but there's so much motion in the pelvis if it can remain in this neutral position from posterior rotation or anterior rotation, being determined though by Earth's vertical gravity pull. You notice here, the pendulum of the hand from the other end of the arm at the shoulder can just hang straight down with Earth's vertical gravity pull because there's not a chair to my side here where I can hang my arm down. So, this is a good visual. I'll keep my arm straight with Earth's vertical gravity pull. Watch my pelvis come higher in the front and lower in the rear, posterior with its rotation. Now watch it come back to neutral, meshing with just Earth's vertical gravity pull. Now watch my pelvis come lower in the front and higher in the rear, anterior with its rotation. But this can only ever happen if the chair is flat. The 12th of July 2026, in the Image Clothing Company's main site here, the video's title, chairs have to be flat. There's no possible opinion to it. It's Earth's vertical gravity pull that determines how the human being, this physical mechanical machine placed onto this rock in space that is our Earth, functions, right? It's completely entirely determined by things that we don't get to decide. Physics, gravity, the body growing by itself, God's design, and this conditional human being, fueled by food and lubricated by water. It's only what it is. It can only ever possibly do what it can do. Chairs have to be flat. No possible opinion to it on what you'd like to have. People talk about ergonomic chair positions and things like this. You'll never change the vertical pull to gravity on this planet Earth. You also never change the fact that there's a neutral position to the pelvis, which is the same as the bottom of the feet's neutral, which is the same as the horizontal surface of the planet Earth that has a perpendicular angle to the vertical pull to the gravity of the planet Earth. So, this is a soft chair, we could say. This is a bed here, a mattress. But as I sit here, I'll sit on this as well to show the visual. The 12th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here, chairs have to be flat, is this video's title. You know, this bed, this mattress, this chair, if you will, is flat as well as what I was sitting on over here, which is actually a mini refrigerator. It's a chair, it's a seat. It's a place to place your body onto. But if I sit on this mattress that's flat, it's so soft that it has a lot of give in it, and there's nothing like this in nature that we're going to be sitting on. There's no opinion too natural. God designed the human being to work. God designed the human being to work on the planet Earth that he designed first. the human being's literally made of, the planet Earth, because we eat it and it becomes the body. You sit on a rock, it's firm. You sit on the ground, it's firm. You sit on a tree trunk, a log, a stump, it's firm. Man-made beds, mattresses, soft chair cushions, our modern man-made world placed onto God's natural earth in 2026 and going forth. Things we never had to possibly deal with in the past as human beings, they're inventions of ours. The pelvis. Hear me out. Meaning, I'm going to say quite a bit here. So stick through it because it is what it is. Meaning the body's bones are only the shape and length that they are. The top of the pelvis, or the top of the hip structure, has crests to it, like a hill. You know, you go up over a hill and you crest over the top of the hill. It's like an arch or an arc, like a rainbow even, okay? Top of the pelvis has a crest. But the bottom of the pelvis also has a crest. When we sit down, there's muscle between the pelvic bone, the actual hip bone, and what we sit on. Okay, or even we could say there's muscle between the pelvic bone and our skin. Okay, these glute muscles. But we are sitting on a pelvis bone, a pelvic bone. The bottom of the pelvis it's arced like this. Like how the top of the pelvis has these crests or arcs, the bottom of the pelvis comes down and has arcs as well. So when we sit down, that's how I'm able to have posterior and anterior rotation happening in my pelvis even while I'm sitting. I'll do it again here. Okay, the 12th of July, 2026, in the Image Clothing Company's main side, this video's title. Chairs have to be flat. If I sit on this firm chair, if you will, we can call it a chair, somewhere to sit, because there are these arcs or these crests underneath the pelvic bone, like on top of the pelvic bone, we have these pelvic crests or arcs or hills, ridges, right, around it to the top of the pelvis. This is also on the bottom of the pelvis. So a big reason, well, yeah, I mean, one of the biggest reasons why chairs have to be flat, in addition to just meshing with Earth's vertical gravity pull because the spine's coming down into the pelvis, with these even mathematical opposing bends through the spine, forward at the lumbar spine, the lowest third of the back, backward at the mid-back, the thoracic spine, and then forward at the cervical spine or the neck, the upper third of the back. I know this is a lot of information. That's why I said, hear me out, because this is kind of a deep understanding if you don't know much about the anatomy of the human being. But that's why it's just another date-marked documentation under In the Image Clothing Company's 5-word company name, under any of the 4 sides that it is at the time. In this case, we're discussing how the bottom of the pelvis here has crests. And so we're rolling on the pelvic bone. When we take our pelvis from the neutral position, meshing with Earth's vertical gravity pull, and the bottom of the feet on the horizontal surface of the Earth, it's perpendicular angle, the horizontal surface of the Earth, and Earth's vertical gravity pull coming down to meet it, we're rolling on the pelvic bone. It has a crest on the bottom when the pelvis comes up in the front and down in the rear, which is a posterior rotation. I'm actually rolling on the bone of the bottom of my pelvis, the ischiums, the sit bones, to get posterior back here with the pelvis. I come back up to neutral, and what I did was roll on the crest or on the bone of the bottom of my pelvis. Now from the neutral, meshing with the vertical pull to gravity, at the pelvis, the whole pelvic structure, the whole pelvic bone, the whole hips of the human being. Now we come lower in the front with the pelvis and higher in the rear. This is an anterior rotation of the pelvis by rolling on a pelvic bone, a bone on the bottom of our pelvis. Well, it's the bone of the pelvis. It's all one thing on either side, essentially, just meaning the bottom of it is something we can roll on, like this. I'll go all the way from posterior back here to all the way past the neutral to anterior up here. Back past the neutral to posterior, back to the neutral and anterior. Higher in the front and lower in the rear, a posterior rotation of the pelvis. Lower in the front and higher in the rear, an anterior rotation of the pelvis. Nothing is moving in my entire body to cause this to happen except for the musculature coming into the pelvis or the hip structure of the human being. And so there's a beautiful visual why this video is titled what it is on the 12th of July 2026 under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here. Chairs have to be flat. There is no possible opinion to wanting, for example, a certain angle to a chair. It has to be flat because the horizontal surface of the planet Earth is, and Earth's vertical gravity pull comes and meshes with that with this perpendicular angle. That's where the pelvis's neutral is from posterior rotation or anterior rotation, and that's the only way we can even just continue to breathe as a human being while we sit on something we could call a chair. It takes the entire body to some degree to stabilize, and every single breath we take, the entire rib cage expands and contracts in 360 degrees, just meaning all the way around every breath we take. And so everything has to stabilize through the entire body for all this motion to happen. Now, why it's different when we sit on a soft, man-made, unnaturally soft chair, seat of any kind, anything at all that you could sit on though, with the bottom of your pelvis, those crests to the bottom of the pelvic bone, the ischium, is because it's not stable. Something soft, unnaturally man-made, it's not like sitting on a firm surface, like a rock in nature, like a tree branch, a tree stump, like the dirt on the ground, or even a place with vegetation that's got plant life, like grass. There's still a firmness to it where the musculature can stay activated in the body to just keep the pelvis stable. On something that's unnaturally soft, even though it's flat, aligning with this video's title on the 12th of July 2026 under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here, chairs have to be flat. My pelvis can roll around. On the crest of the bottom of my pelvis, just because it's not a stable surface. So the angle is correct. This chair, it's a mattress, but it is flat. So my pelvis has the opportunity to be neutral to begin with from posterior rotation, coming up in the front and down in the rear with the whole pelvic structure of the human being, from the neutral, meshing with the vertical pull to Earth's gravity, coming down to the horizontal surface of the planet Earth, or going anterior, down in the front and up in the rear with the whole pelvic structure of the human being. Okay, either a posterior rotation or an anterior rotation can happen on this chair. It's a mattress, but something to sit on because it is flat. But because it is so squishy, soft, pliable, not firm, the bottom of the pelvis, having these crests underneath it, can roll around. And so it's very hard meaning physically for your body's musculature's activation, it takes a lot of work to stabilize the pelvis in a neutral position. It's like just trying to stand on something like this. It takes a lot of work in the feet and the ankles, and then traveling through the entire body to try to stabilize on such a soft, squishy, man-made, unnatural surface like this mattress that we could call a chair because it's something to sit on. Yeah, so much more so than just standing on the firm surface of the planet Earth with the feet in their neutral position with those gripped arches evenly opposing the center line of the body, which meshes with Earth's vertical gravity pull to just keep us vertical on Earth's vertical gravity pull. So chairs have to be flat. There's your explanation. A lot of times we will have chairs that are on an angle. Let's say we had this chair tilting one direction, and it wasn't flat. If the chair is tilting down and forward, when you sit on it, it'll tilt your pelvis forward, lower in the front and higher in the rear, an anterior rotation of the pelvis. If we had a chair that was tilting the opposite direction and coming up as it was coming toward you, this would put the pelvis in a posterior rotation. Higher in the front than the rear, up in the front and down in the rear, just because what we're sitting on isn't flat if it's not. But the bottom of the pelvis has these crests or these rounding on either side of these ischiums or the sit bones, the bottom of the pelvis, that will just roll on. If we sit down on something that's not flat, the pelvis will just roll on the physical rounded bones to the bottom of the pelvic structure. Okay, chairs have to be flat. No possible opinion to it. But that's not me like being all prideful, pointing fingers like I know better than you. I'm telling you this because it'll change your entire life. I'm giving free information as the founder and leader for life of In the Image Clothing Company to the only way the human being could ever possibly physically, mechanically operate, because it's just determined by the shape and length of our own individual bones, connecting directly through ligaments in this universal human design, designed in the image of God. So, that's why I'm saying this, is because anytime you ever sit down, you have to sit on something flat. But you also have to have your feet flat on the ground. If you're wearing shoes, the term zero drop. There wouldn't need to be a term. We could just say shoe soles need to be flat. We could say it bold like this video's title and say shoe soles have to be flat. Because chairs have to be flat, because the surface of the planet Earth is always flat, unless you go up a hill or down a hill. And you can only say you're going up if you first start flat. You can only say you're going down if you first start flat. You can only say you're having a posterior rotation of the pelvis up in the front and down in the rear if you first start flat. You can only say you're having an anterior rotation of the pelvis up in the rear and down in the front if you first start flat. It's mathematics, it's mechanics, there's no possible opinion to it. Meaning, workouts, stretching, it's impossible to get the body into some position besides the only way the bones connect. But we are in the Image Clothing Company. Why? To do what our slogan is here under our main side, allowing the body to work. Clothing being just the only thing physically placed on us in any form that it could possibly come. Even just a bag over the shoulder, you're clothing your shoulder with a bag. Okay? Literal wording. So clothing having to do, as we discussed, the very baseline 3 things at least: stay centered with Earth's vertical gravity pull, meshing with the center line of our bodies. Fit correct, things like joints of material of clothing meshing with joints of body parts, because there's only one way the human body could ever possibly physically mechanically operate. And be made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials. Because matter cannot be created or destroyed, and the human being itself is only made of 100% natural materials. Otherwise, it's being literally, truly poisoned by unnatural, man-made things taken from natural things that will always decompose back to natural things anyway. So, all opinions aside, there truly is only one way the human body could ever work. All opinions aside, chairs have to be flat. All opinions aside, clothing has to fit. Everything we do in our lives, we're doing it in and through the literal word of whatever we're choosing to clothe our bodies with. It has to work for our bodies the only way our bodies work. And that will always be the same for every generation of human being to ever live. We do all we can here under In the Image Clothing Company to document permanent pieces of eternal truth that we don't get to decide or have any say in whatsoever. So here you go, okay? Yeah. Our bodies can get into chronic patterning, okay? That's a lot of what we do here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, is we get out of chronic patterning that gets built up in the body, bone spurs, scar tissue, a lot of problems when the body's trying to work around things that don't work the only way the human body does. Oversized clothing, when we don't have joints of material of clothing meshing with joints of body parts. Pulls down on the body to the low end of its neutral positions. There's a neutral position to the entire human being in every sense of its physical functioning. That's how it physically functions. It's a mechanical machine, okay? Earth's vertical gravity pull. It just is what it is. It's physics. Imbalances. Shoelaces, drawstrings, just ropes tied on or around the body in any way, any rope at all, or anything you could possibly tie on or around the body. One side over the other, you twist the entire human being, and this puts us into a chronic pattern of working that over days and days and days, weeks and weeks, months and months, years and years will damage the entire body. Potentially almost an entire lifetime of getting into chronic patterning. You have to rid it. Because there's always still only one way the human being's bones connect and are shaped, and there's always only one length to them once we're full grown. So, pockets, zippers, buttons, rotating seams with robot stitching our clothing in modern 2026 and going forth. If collar seams, when we need a centered collar around the even opposing musculature to our neck. Some of that is the jaw musculature. The jaw, at least, does these things for the entire body, speaks, eats, stabilizes the entire body, and plays into breathing. These are things the jaw of the human being does. The collars of our tops that can become very imbalanced if we have imbalances in our collars of our tops will cause the jaw musculature to be imbalanced and damage the entire body down to the tip of the toes, out to the tip of the fingers, and up to the tip of the head. The human body is a kinetic chain. It's all connected. Everything in the body's there. It's all got its own individual role to play. Everything has to play its role because something else that has an entirely different function can't make up for the role of something not playing its function. So we address things if and where. Amputations, if you will, there's still a vertical pull to gravity. We have to have balanced weight on either side of our bodies because there's a spine in the center, the only vertical support above the hips, clear up to the base of the skull. when it comes to bone. Okay, it's the only vertical support. Just the spine and the very center line of the body that meshes with Earth's vertical gravity pull. So, anyway, these are a lot of the things we discuss and do under In the Image Clothing Company here, discussing the anatomy of the human body in depth, giving a lot of free modifications, as I was starting to say earlier, in a lot of modern, universally imbalanced clothing design. We're dealing with the same problems in different ways and different problems in the same ways as human beings across the entire planet Earth from generation to generation. It's just what it is. Over on In the Image Clothing Company podcast, one of our fourths to us as In the Image Clothing Company, we have deep, thorough discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, but we are all the same thing, just a human being placed on this rock in space, the same Earth as everyone else that's here, designed by the same God within this universal human design. It's just what it is. Okay, episode 209 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast is what we're on as of today's date. Just deep insights on life is what we discuss. In the Image Clothing Company poodles, we specialize in the large or standard size purebred poodle, but give information that applies to all dogs, which we title as Letting Dogs Stay Natural. That's our slogan over there. The same thing as allowing the body to work here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side for the human beings. Clothing for the dogs, feeding for the dogs, having dogs just be able to still be as natural as they can, living in this modern man-made world we place onto God's natural earth, just like us as human beings. In the Image Clothing Company music, another one of our fourths, a lot of what we do, and you can probably hear it a lot of the time if you pick it out when I'm speaking. I speak in a rhythm or a cadence because we do rhythm and poetry, lyricism, spoken word, singing, guitar playing, music geared around the gospel of Jesus Christ with the messages over on In the Image Clothing Company music. We show the sizing and setup of guitar to not alter things like the neutral wrist, because there's always only one way the human being's bones are shaped. They grow by themselves. Designed in the image of God. Today is Sunday. And I want to express my gratitude for this video. Just another beautiful date-marked documentation to build credibility, to show longevity, but also just to document permanent, eternal, unchanging truth of the mathematical functioning in the only way the human body could ever possibly work. Chairs have to be flat. This video's title, the 12th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here. Based in the state of Utah, the United States of America, specifically St. George, Utah. Check us out. We do things for the environment. We'll do a lot more even than we currently do as time progresses, as our team builds. We'll always have good clothing, dog products available, staying centered, fitting correct, and being made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials at the very baseline is what we'll do what we can with all of our designs under In the Image Clothing Company. Make sure you always purchase clothing in your size. Okay, that's a huge focus. Oversized clothing in itself is one of those imbalances that will very, very much damage your entire body and really your entire physical life that then transfers into your emotional life and everything else you could say, your mental life, your spiritual life, every part of your being that you could call a human. You're just a human being. Anyway, thank you. Goodbye.